All right, Patrick, let's talk about the next topic, which is interest rates and mortgage renewals. How is this quarter point interest rate drop going to impact mortgage renewals? That friend of mine I was telling you about, I was in his office, and I'm not kidding you. As I'm talking to him, it's like ding, ding, ding. And I'm like, what's dinging? He says, that's people emailing me, asking me how much their mortgage is going to go down because of this quarter point interest rate drop. I mean, everyone is wondering that very question is, how much is this going to go down? And the answer is, unfortunately, for most people, this makes no difference unless you're on a variable rate mortgage. Then you'll see a slight decrease. But if you're on a fixed rate mortgage, Patrick, that's not where interest rates come from. They don't come from the Bank of Canada. They come from bond yield. So maybe explain that a little bit.
Well, I mean, depending on, again, and this is really the question is, are you on a variable rate or are you on a fixed rate? So depending on when your mortgage is renewing, I mean, the rough math it's just rough math because there's all sorts of little tweaks and nuances around it. But I think 25 basis points on 100 grand is about $25. So depending, if you had a $500,000 mortgage, you're looking at what is that, about $125 a month that would affect your mortgage payment. So
and that'll make a difference for some. I mean, that'll make a difference for some for sure.
Yeah, 100%. It's a step in the right direction. But to your point, bond yields are still very strong. They've been very erratic. I don't know what they are at the time we're filming this, but the point is that bond yields set the long-term rates, not the Bank of Canada. The challenge that we are facing and that many are facing as we go into 2025, 2026 is that probably, I don't know what the actual math is, but I think 50% of the mortgages that are there are actually renewing in 2025, another 40% in 2026. The debt levels of Canadians is relative to, I think the chart that we have is the 80s is more than double the bad news of what it was in the 80s. The point is this, is that when and if the Bank of Canada does not decrease those rates enough, and we know that they're not coming back to, let's say, 0 or 1 or 2%, many people had those low rates. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that it's going to hit people hard. And therein lies the challenge and I guess the real fear of future state. So we'll see what happens. But, if you're even at a 2% mortgage rate or a 2.25% mortgage rate, and you go to, let's say, a low 4, your payments are going up significantly. And so that's going to be a challenge for many Canadians.
Now, a couple things, Patrick. I really want to dig into this because here's the chart you're asking about, which is the mortgage renewals per year. You can see in 2025, we're going to be renewing about 23% of the mortgages renew in 2025. And in 2026, an additional 31%, give or take, are renewing. So between 2025 and 2026, you got over 50% of mortgages are renewing in those 2 years. And I think this is the game right here. I think this is the game the Bank of Canada are playing, which is, and by the way, even though, and I just want everyone to understand this, is even though fixed rate mortgages aren't impacted by variable rate, by the Bank of Canada's overnight rate, even though that is true and that's the facts, as the Bank of Canada overnight rate comes down, bond yields will follow and they will come down too. They definitely follow each other, Patrick. There's lots of evidence to that. So you will see fixed rate mortgages start to come down over time. There's a delay. There's no immediate impact, but you will see that over the course of time, barring anything else crazy happening, that will happen. And I think this is the game the Bank of Canada are playing. They are pushing the limit till the very last possible second, and then they're going to start decreasing because they know this is going to create a lot of pain. And the increase in mortgage payments in 2025 and 2026 is significant. I mean, people who have static payments on a variable, if interest rates don't come down, you're going to see payments going up by 50+% in 2025 and over 60% in 2026. I know the Bank of Canada knows this. They're the source of this chart, and they are just waiting till the last possible second to bring this down. And I don't think they're going to let all this pain happen, but they're going to let some of it happen. That's for sure.
Well, it depends. And there's so many different mortgages out there, JG, as you know. And some of the challenges that are going to be faced is that, as we said early on, when rates started to go up, people really didn't see their payments go up with the rate increases, because what was happening in behind the scenes is, because they have within their mortgage, their payment is not going up. What did they do? They extended amortizations. We shared lots of stories where people at the end of a now 40, 50-year amortization are going to owe what they're paying for their house is like ridiculous, and what they actually owe is higher than what they started with. Like, the math gets stupid in behind the scenes. So the point is this, is that when people come to renew, all of that reality hits home, and that's where things are really going to come off the rails.
Yeah. And this is the chart, Patrick, that you were referring to a while ago, which is essentially, people like to compare today to the 80s. And even though interest rates aren't as high as they were in the 80s, Patrick, the debt load is a lot higher. Therefore, the actual impact is much greater. And I think this is the chart you were referring to a while ago.
Yeah, that's exactly the chart. And you start to see just how dramatic it is. I mean, it's huge. And this is what is going to come back. This is where the lag will start to really catch up. And it's all to say that, the next couple of years are going to be painful for many.
Now, Patrick, I want to end on this particular note, which is, I've been saying for some time, and it was I believe a year ago, that I can't believe it's June 2024 already, but it was a year ago that I started telling people, listen, eventually interest rates are going to come down and price levels are going to come up. There's no doubt right now a negative correlation between the interest rates as they come down, pricing of real estate is going to go up. That's for sure. You can count on that. It's just statistics, right? And a year ago, I was telling people, listen, you can't control the price of real estate, but so you don't know where it's going to go, but interest rates over time are going to start to come down, and as a result, pricing is going to come up. That, by the way, has already happened in the last year. But now, to me, I think that that's going to get progressively more and more pronounced as time goes on. Now, what's happening, and I'm looking at an analysis I did for a client. It was late last week. I did this analysis for a client because she's looking at doing a self-funding house, Patrick, where she's going to hire Vistra Property Management in order to convert her basement into an income performing asset and actually put a tenant in there and rent it out. And this client is going to have to invest, and I'll give you real numbers. I'm going to look at her numbers here. She's going to have to invest $151,000 in order to convert the basement. It's not cheap to convert a basement into an apartment, because you got to do fire rating and so on and so forth. Without getting all the details, it costs $150,000 to do. But listen to this, Patrick. She purchased that property just a couple of years ago for $440,000. The after repair value, once she does the conversion, is $675,000. So the immediate return on investment is about 55% on her invested $150,000 of renovation. Now, with that, she is going to start to generate $24,000 per year in rental income. That's significant, Patrick, because what happens is, instead of this person now paying her mortgage out of her pocket every single month, she is going to use the rental income to not only pay off the renovation, but also start paying for her mortgage. And listen to this, Patrick. She's going to go from a current cash flow negative, currently, as she pays her own mortgage, she's cash flow negative in a sense. She's cash flow negative $1,200 per month. As she puts the apartment in there, she goes from cash flow negative $1,200 to cash flow negative $100 a month. She's making an additional $1,100 a month. Okay, check this out. I'm not done yet, though. That's pretty incredible already. So you're gonna have somebody who's gonna make 55% return on their investment of investing that into the renovation. They're gonna increase their cash flow every single month by $1,100. That's huge. And when they refinance in November of 2026, they're going to be able to pay off their mortgage, their entire renovation. They're going to be able to pay it all off. They're going to free up $186,000 of free cash flow. And here comes the best part. They will be able to move to another house, go do it again, and that property will generate, and are you ready for this, $2,193 per month in positive cash flow. That is, when you do it right, that is the opportunity, and that's a possibility. And you ask yourself the question, how is this even possible? It's possible because she bought a property, by the way, at the peak of the market, not the bottom, at the peak. She bought it at the peak. She got that low interest rate. She's good. So, but that opportunity goes away, Patrick. And that's what I'm explaining to this client is the minute, like if she doesn't pull this trigger now, this opportunity goes away because when she refinances in 2026, if she doesn't use this low interest rate today, she will lose that opportunity. And a lot of people are sitting in this position right now where they don't want to pull the trigger because they're scared of the future. But if you make the right moves today, real estate is a magical tool. So anyways, just wanted to share that, Patrick.
Well, listen, JG, I love it. And I'm going to add even one more. We're going to supersize this conversation because when it comes to the self-funding house, the one thing that we have to add to all of this, which is when you go to the bank. So for example, when she eventually buys her second property, you go to the bank, the qualifying income drops significantly because they use 100% of the rental offset when you go to refinance the new property. So if you're a first-time home buyer and you're going to embrace the self-funding house methodology, you're actually going to the bank. And let's say you needed $175,000 of household income to qualify for that mortgage. Guess what? You add an ADU to it, you add the rent to it, and all of a sudden that drops to about $115,000 of household income. So we can't step over the fact that in all of this, financing becomes a huge issue. And when you have that ADU, that additional dwelling unit, in this case, a basement suite, or whatever suite that they're adding, that then it changes the game for what you need to qualify for the next mortgage. So I just want to shine a light on that because banks love it when you have what we would call a mortgage helper, but ultimately that's what it is. It brings your household income, the requirement, way down.
I'm a huge fan, Patrick. In fact, you've inspired me. I'm going to write a blog post case study. I'm going to have it live on the Visture blog today, because by the time this video hits the streets, I want people to see these numbers because I went through it quickly there. But people really got to digest this, Patrick, because this opportunity, and a lot of people are sitting in this beautiful spot, and they got to be able to see the forest through the trees, but they can't because they don't understand the numbers. I will publish the numbers and share with people exactly how this works. So if people go to Visture, visture.ca/blog, we should put that in the show notes, by the way. I'll get it published and we'll show people exactly how to do this, Patrick.
And I want to add one fundamental thing to this, JG, is that, we often go back, we even did it today. We're always comparing to what was the 80s, the 90s, 2019, and we keep comparing to the past. And in this housing market, in this global macroeconomic shift of housing, and it's not just Canada, it's global. The game has changed. And so as those individuals who want to own their first home, the self-funding house, we need to change the tactic. We can live into an old story of what once was, or we can make the change that needs to be made given what's happening in the market. We've shared that whole comment so many times. There is no bad real estate markets. There's just the wrong strategy in any given market. So for those of you who are looking at first time, consider self-funding house. It is the way of the world going forward. Embrace it.
See, Patrick, look how much a quarter point interest rate drop helps. Look at our energy. We're energized. We're enthused. This is awesome. And it's been an absolutely spectacular show. Thanks for doing this. And what a great show. I'm excited for the next quarter point drop. Maybe we're going to get a whole percentage point next time. Who knows? Let's hope.
And watch for more on the self-funding house. If you like what you learned here, go to the description below and subscribe for our free Insiders newsletter, where you can also stay up to date for our upcoming events and our courses.